Welcome. Welcome as you join in. You have a good hour and a half in front of you of listening to wonderful poems by um, poets who've been in the Tiferet Spiritual Poetry Group for a good while. And I apologize for my cracking voice, but I'm not reading a poem, so I think we'll be fine. Um, I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about Tiferet and about the really magical wonder of the spiritual poetry groups that, well, first of all, Tiferet is an interfaith literary journal that I started back in 2004. And we publish prose and poetry from people of all faiths and even non-traditional faiths. And we also started offering at the beginning of the pandemic. I felt like, gosh, what can I do? I'm a writer. I'm used to. I could kind of handle the beginning of the pandemic, thinking that okay, I can do this. And I thought, what can I do to be of service to others who might not be so used to aloneness and being inside the house? And I thought about spiritual poems that have helped me through challenging times in life. And I was just as an aside, I was raised Christian, but my father was Jewish, my mother was Christian, so I always felt open, very open to both faiths, and always wondered as a kid why can't people get along? And because my parents loved each other dearly and were married for 68 years. So, but when they married back in 1948, both of their families were very much against it. However, they grew to love. They grew to love their. Um, Second, a couple more people in the waiting room. Okay, so the spiritual poetry group started in March 2020, and I just picked out three poems each week. We have a Wednesday group that meets Wednesday 1 to 2:30, and we have a Thursday group that meets 1 to 2:30. And the poets you'll hear today are from those two groups. We've had people sign up from India, British Columbia, Wales, all over the United States. We have Tammy with us today, who's smack dab in Jerusalem. Um, and yeah, so it's been very, very meaningful. And it's been, so the poems that have been chosen, that I choose each week, I kind of just think about the gestalt that at least personally I'm sensing, and pick three poems from different eras and again from different spiritual traditions. So we listen to Rumi, Hafiz, Denise Levertov, David White, Mary Oliver, all kinds of people. And I'll read the poem and then I give a writing prompt. And each poet has 10 minutes to write a first draft, which often comes out sounding like a final draft. And then they're able to read and share two of the three poems they write during our hour and a half together and get feedback. Um, and it's been so nurturing for me. I mean, I started this again as a way to think, how can I be of service? But it has been such a gift to me to hear what these open hearted, open minded, and talented people have come up with. It's just quite astonishing. I say that the groups are co-creations. It just somehow takes us to a wonderful place. I think in some ways it takes us to Tiferet. The Hebrew word Tiferet corresponds to heart, compassion, and reconciliation of opposites. And I first learned the word Tiferet when I was in a spiritual group called the Society of Souls for about 6 years. And I fell in love with the word again, because having a Jewish dad and Christian mom, I thought, yes, reconciliation of opposites is important. And goodness gracious, in today's world, that's something I sure hope humanity can strive for and reach, because we have an awful lot of divisiveness. in this world. So I think that's all I wanted to say about Tiferet and how this started. And then I will let the poets from the classes read their poems, and then we'll have some Q&A at the end. If you'd like to, you can write questions in the chat room. All right, so we're going to begin. And it's always a good idea to take deep breaths. I have a candle lit. Janet has a candle lit. I imagine others may too. And just be present. So, Christine, we'll start with you, please. And one more thing, I'm sorry. I would recommend that you put your view on speaker so you can see as the poet is speaking, you'll focus on their face. Okay.
Welcome, friends. I know Donna asked us to share the prompt or the occasion for the poem, but I really can't remember how it came about. So I do know our class has given me the courage to write the truth from my own perspective. The poem is called Te Amo, Te Amo. The photograph I mentioned in the poem appeared in all the national newspapers, June 26, 2019. Te amo, te amo. 26-year-old Oscar is crossing the border in Mexico with his wife and his not quite 2-year-old daughter, Valeria. Days before he tries to cross into the great state of Texas by swimming the Rio Grande, he writes to his mother, still in El Salvador, "We are fine." My only point of reference is that I once rode in a basket, floating on air high above the majestic Rio Grande, not as an escape, but for pleasure. We ended the trip with celebratory champagne. Oscar recognizes his possible good fortune, swimming to freedom, setting Valeria down, safe on shore, hidden in the weeds, then turning back to rescue his wife. But the little girl follows him back into the water. The photograph I see is 2 dead bodies face down. Valeria is wrapped inside her father's shirt, entwined with him, one arm draped around his neck. They look like a baptism gone wrong. Oscar, Alberto, Martinez, Ramirez, there are hundreds of ways to say I love you. Thank you. Peace and blessings to you all.
Please. Thank you, Christine.
Hello, my name is Colette Zell, and I'm going to read a poem that I've written called The Needle's Eye, honoring Rumi. To begin the repair, open the sewing chest. Pull out thread. It doesn't matter what color. Each one is all colors. To search more will only delay the work we've promised each other. So yes, thread and a pair of small scissors, not big enough to cut more than 4 threads. Pull out the paper of needles labeled embroidery, ballpoint, tapestry. Make sure the needle is up to the task. Put your glasses on to see the wound, the slash against the sky running up from the fields. Begin to stitch up and down, in and out. Pull the torn edges together until there is only a narrow ridge remaining. Add water. Spill it gently from your heart. The water flows. You have made a river from the wound of war.
Thank you, Colette. And our next reader today is Ruth Kirshner. Also, the flyer, I'm sorry, Ruth, before you begin, in the chat room, the flyer is there that lists all the poets' bios too. So, to you, Ruth.
The prompt for this poem was grasping what we cannot grasp. Back in my very first city of dreams, mine lifted off, and everything was possible. I danced with my whole heart into love and art and changing the world, one kindergartner at a time, one classroom at a time, one cigar box guitar, one drum made from a closet, its door replaced by stretched polyurethane. Boom went the closet. The future would reverberate, a different song at every turn, and difference just meant paper or plastic, not us against them, not evil versus righteous. And God didn't matter. We had a golden fabric that held each and every one of us who might, on some occasion, fall. Everything was possible then, so why not now? Note to self, when this poem ends, remember hope. It's around here somewhere. Look again. Yeah.
This is called, I'm Linda Levy. This is called Mine, Ours, Theirs. Some nights I dream in Hebrew. The stories I was raised on come to life to the accompaniment of familiar chants. There's Moses in his straw basket. There's Jacob in his many-colored coat. I dream of Noah's flood and the animals 2 by 2. Awake, I learn the Mesopotamians told of a flood 1,000 years before we did. A Sumerian named Utnapishtim built a ship long before Noah. Utnapishtim saved the animals too. Wait, you had a flood? They had a flood? I thought we invented the flood. Have I been listening to a wayward choir? I love the songs I already know. Do I have to learn your songs too? Isn't my God the one God? That's what we're taught. Now it turns out there are other gods, other heroes, other voices. I'm going to have to make more room in my dreams than I ever thought I had.
Our next reader is Claudia Reeder.
Yeah, I'm Claudia Redder, and the prompt was, how can you live simply, wisely? Song for the Unborn. When telling the tale about the magic bird, I add, tie a string around her tiny foot. This tiny red string is a talisman that makes it possible for you to concede she is not a bird, she is a presence. She helps us remember why glittering fall leans into winter, why the ground muddies beneath our feet in June. Seasons guide us. Our task is to remember what it feels like, to be sated with sky, trees, belonging, to know if you put your head down on the lap of earth, the sun will warm you. Sometimes it's best to praise nothing but feel gratitude for what does not weigh you down.
And our next reader is Chitananda.
Hi everyone, I am Chitananda, and give me a minute here. My poem's not where it was. Read it from paper. Okay, so this is, I don't remember the prompt from this day, but it was pretty recent. It was back in November, and it's called Harbingers of Peace. I looked at my daughter the other day, her soft beauty unimaginable, her kind heart tender and pure. She knows me in a way unlike any other person, residing in oneness as we have from the time before she was born. Even as an egg in my developing body nestled inside the womb of her grandmother, alongside the potential of her charming, quirky, vibrant brother. He knows me deeply too, and somehow quite differently, despite their shared beginning. His essence poised for birth, her essence poised for birth. two of many possibilities, but he is the only son I would carry, and she the only daughter. He, the divine masculine, she, the sacred feminine, each alive in their own glorious beauty as their own perfect expression of life. My heart stopped. My awareness shifted to the mothers, grieving their own beloved creations across many lands, creations known to them for a kind of eternity, the eternity of the womb. Yet humans continue to war, and our children leave this planet before we do, at our own hands. Accidents we cannot control. Let this be enough for mothers to bear. It is already too much. But war? War requires consent. Let us all cry out, no more. As a mother, with two beautiful children, full of imperfections and a deep magnificence I cannot understand, but that I feel blossom in my heart daily, hourly, with each pulsing breath, I cannot help but ask, how is it possible that humans war? It is our children who fight, after all. Let women rise as the collective womb of creation. Let us rise and decree no more war across lands, no more war within families, no more. I shall not bear children into war. I bear children as harbingers of peace, to be vessels of love, as a sacred act of reverence from my vessel of love. To those who seek war, ask your children what they need. Look in their eyes and listen. Make requests. Make amends. Our planet can hold us all. I surmise you will hear them cry, war is never the answer. You will see in their deep eyes worlds of possibility filled with visions of clean oceans, recovering species, regenerating farmland, thriving families, cuddling, playing, singing, laughing, a general exuberance for life and merriment. Maybe it is time to let our children lead, guiding us through the purity of their hearts to sanctuary. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jonelle Sarah, and I'm lucky to be part of this class. This poem was inspired by a Rilke poem. The prompt I was responding to was more or less where you find yourself at the crossroads of mystery or mystery of the senses, something similar to that. It's called The Intersection in Which We Find Ourselves. Listening to Rilke this morning, I am a raindrop in a spider's web, not trapped but held, my fears transparent in the morning light. You ask about the mystery at the crossroads. I want to say something about impermanence, about moments on earth and stone pathways I follow in my dreams. I've seen stars fall to the earth and bushes burn. I followed wonder down the highway of a fern stalk, let the morning sun over the jungle burn surprise into my heart. I've touched the ground for you, and you, and you. The fountain in a Buddhist temple in San Francisco holds the tears of Mother Mary, shed while she cleans the broken body of her son every day. An endless loop of bathing, grieving, and burying. As long as mothers bury sons, Mary will not cease the ritual. Meanwhile, in another century, or perhaps tomorrow, Joseph, after he crawls from the pit of jealousy and abandonment, has dreams that guide a king. Who whispers to him these prophecies while he slumbers? Could it be Hildegard, making magic with her words? You are, she might whisper in his ear, a citizen of sacredness. In the spiral of time, all dreams are travelers, seeking open doorways. All stories are one, connected by windows of shared memory. In Nepal, a mother-to-be dreams of a lotus flower falling from heaven, taking root in her womb. Later, her daughter is named a goddess by the town priests. When she is 6, the daughter weeps for 4 days without ceasing. And that night, the royal family is murdered. All this in 2010. Women and dreams and babies usher in hope, carry out corpses. When I carried my own firstborn within me, I dreamt of Rousseau's tiger in the desert, nudging me in my sleep, woke craving pomegranate seeds, matzahs, dolmas, the scent of grilled lamb, as if I might be birthing a Greek child or a Jewish one, as if I carried a servant of God, a prophet, a prince, or a flower that blooms in the winter. I named the child Poet in Gaelic and fed him couscous and hummus and pita. We used to buy the Middle Eastern special from the food truck. Now I want to buy that lunch for every child in Gaza, for the children who survived in the kibbutz, but whose families did not, for the children in Ukraine and Russia and Sudan, for the children at our borders alone. Gather round, fierce little ones, rip the pita, dip into the yogurt sauce, taste the tangy tabbouleh on your tongue, share this meal with me. Before birth, a baby has no nation, no idea of the blood spilled or wine shared amongst allies, just gathers cells furiously and builds a body to walk on the surface of this earth. This world, unbroken, full of contradictions and crossroads, of abundant hope, limitless love, mass forgiveness, and acts of wild generosity. This is what we owe to the children we knit in our wombs. We owe them lunch. We owe them poetry. We owe them peace.
Beautiful, Chanel. Thank you. Thank you. And Tammy are in Jerusalem. And
yes,
either before or after you read your poem, would you tell us about the work you're doing there too?
sure. Thank you all. This poem was from a prompt from a poem called Prayer for Peace by Paramahansa Yogananda, and the lines that spoke to me in this poem were, "We learn hardly that war like crime does not pay, solving nothing." And here is my poem called Prayer for Peace During a War. A prayer for peace during a war is as important and meaningful as my work in the open, safe art studio on Fridays, and the meetings with my ex-student whose father was shot through the back and miraculously was not seriously hurt. When he peeked out of his synagogue that black Shabbat, as important as working on containment with the 40 school psychologists yesterday is the ritual stop we do each Friday after the group safe open studio. Last week, 40 folks aged 3 to 93 came. I was covered in paint and sated. They are all evacuees from kibbutzim that were brutally attacked. Afterwards, we drive purposely through Abu Ghosh, the Arab neighboring village, and buy cookies, barazik, baklawa, raibe, basbousa, and knafe, from the 30-year-old Arab man who studied philosophy and Israeli history and lore at Hebrew University. His bookshelves over the sweets, the hilwayat, include Anne Frank's diary in Hebrew, Kant in Arabic. We discuss Heidegger and Sartre in Arabic as he pours the orange blossom water over the hot knafe. A cloud of luscious steam rises, and I believe that the entire experience is an edible prayer for peace. And then create an altar from it all at home for Shabbat dinner dessert.
Beautiful, beautiful. Our next poet is Ellen Bleet Cohen.
Hi. My poem was also inspired by the Prayer for Peace by Yogananda. And the exact same line was also the thing that triggered the poem for me. We learn hardly that war, like crime, does not pay. So you'll recognize that in this poem, which just came out. I really didn't change it too much, which is pretty amazing how this workshop works. So it's called Let Us Grow Peace. Can we truly see the other and learn to love them so that we cannot bear to destroy them? Can we jump the groove carved by the churning wheel of history, the rut of senseless carnage and destruction in service of what? To end up on top of the heap? We learn the hard way, or rather hardly learn, that war answers nothing other than a child's cry for mercy as bombs rain down, creating new suffering, birthing a new generation of fear and hatred, never to be buried with the bodies of the dead. Let us bury the fear and the hatred, water them with our mutual sorrow, grow peace from the wreckage.
Thank you. And Janet Harrison, please.
Okay, I also am responding to the same poem, A Prayer for Peace. And I didn't write any specific lines, but my poem is called A Prayer for That Which Presses on My Heart. I pray for peace as if I had misplaced it, dropped it along a path through the forest one flaring autumn day. I failed to miss it for days, partially because I never knew I had it in the first place. There is so much hurry, too much race. I pray for peace as if I could find it, like a shiny quartz in driveway gravel, or a perfect shell cast onto the shore of a restless ocean. As if it were something I could pick up and hold, exclaiming, "Look, here! Do you want to hold this marvel? Stop the war!" I found a black stone with green flecks. My angels are gentle today. They encourage my prayers, my pleas for peace. Let African nights be still and healing. Let Ukrainian children sleep through the night. Let Arab, Palestine, and Israel beat swords into plows under the shade of fig trees. Let them share bread and stories of love. Everyone has stories of love. Let gentleness overtake all violence, I pray, here, there, everywhere that writhes in pain and anger. Let not another dawn come to pass in war. Oh, I long for you, peace. Please do not linger beyond the horizon. Look, I have found a black stone with green flecks. Stop the war.
Next up is Deborah Garish.
Hi, everyone. So I chose from November 29th, Let This Darkness Be a Bell Tower by Rilke. And the prompt was The Mystery at the Crossroads of My Senses. The mystery at the crossroads of my senses is peace. It's the jay shelling peanuts, a stargazer lily as it dulcifies the room, suet butter smeared on the maple bark for woodpeckers to feed on. Peace is you and I splitting an orange, combing the calico cat, singing psalms, admiring beauty in the boughs of the magnolia. Peace is where we inherit the earth. Peace, invisible yet visible. It is the French bulldog that can't wait to visit the vet, Once in the waiting room, he leans into the cat carrier and licks the kitten's paw. A music that closes the passages to anger. Blessed are the musicians, the candlelight. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you. And Adrian Keller.
Good afternoon. At least it's afternoon where I am in Virginia. I'm Adrian. This is based on the poem Kindness by Naomi Shihab Nye. And our prompt was what kindness requires of us. I am become her Hamas, she my Israel. How is it that to all others we are family, yet enemies to each other, launching blame like bombs? Though it seem pure hubris, blind, self-centered hubris, to abrogate to our petty fight the horror of this new old war. Yet only this way can I grasp the terrifying reality of cherished grievances. I cannot judge the world harshly without knowing myself a creator of Holocaust, perpetrator and victim, terror and terrorized, murderer of kindness, slayer of peace.
Yes, thank you, Adrian. And Zila Barsky, there you are.
Hello.
Who has a new book coming out.
Oh, thanks. Hello, everyone. This poem actually is based on my work with a young woman, Afghani refugee, and I've been working with her to learn English. It's called Refugee. Here in this small apartment, among flashcards and simple picture books that cover the floor, you nurse your toddler, then serve me fragrant tea. We sit cross-legged, shoes at the door, try to make sense of English. Workbook pages tell stories of other immigrants who attempt to find jobs, go to doctors, or shop for meals. Your daughter interrupts, takes ownership of the books, the index cards, the pens, and paper. She scribbles her own story. I wonder what you have survived, escaped from, who you've left behind. You can't yet express your trauma or your families. Bits of language hint at where you came from. We study an Afghani map. Little by little, we sort through your former life, gather pieces of your present one. When our conversation gets too complicated, we turn to WhatsApp and Google Translate to communicate. We pause. You clear the floor, cover it with the printed cloth you use for every meal, serve a steaming platter of rice and meat, insist I eat. Afterwards, we revisit the flashcards. You repeat after me, happy, tired, sad, thirsty. Gradually, your own words emerge. I am sad for my brother. He was beaten by the Taliban. Your daughter reaches for you. I touch your hand.
Thank you, Nancy. And we will finish today's reading with Adele Kenny, who I am very grateful to say has been the poetry editor of Tiferet since practically the beginning, so a long time. And not only is Adele a wonderful poetry editor, but also a wonderful poet in her own right. So.
Thank you, Donna, and thank you for inviting me to be here to be part of this sharing today. I wasn't a participant in the spiritual poetry workshops, but it's wonderful to hear your poems and to see your faces and your expressions as you're reading them. I've always loved the way Tiferet speaks to the spiritual in each of us and the ways in which the spiritual journey is one that we really all do share. It may be that we're taking different paths up the mountain, but we're on that same mountain together. And our poetry is the one thing that tells us we're not alone. And that's so important to me, because why else would we write? We write to share and to be part of the universal community in whatever ways we can. This poem begins in autumn, which will end soon, by the way, on Nancy's birthday. We're talking about her book and her birthday today, so we're celebrating all of that. But it's really about realizing the something other of spirituality. It's not about religion. It's not about anything organized. It's not about anything hierarchical or patriarchal or feminist or anything like that. It's just that something other. And it's how we begin to live in the peace of that particular light. The poem is called Without Seeing. It isn't now or this patch of blue autumn, light skimmed like milk without substance, its ghost on my lips. Or the way trees darken before the sky, the way light slants through pines, my neighbor's lamp or the moon. It's not the way night feels when I walk in March, when snow melts into mud and I smell grass again. When I know without seeing that tight buds open high in the branches. It's not the expected order of things, but moments of other, when something startles me into knowing something other. Tonight, wind pulled leaves from the sky to my feet, and suddenly, without warning, a deer leapt from the thicket behind me, leapt and disappeared, past me as I passed myself, my body filled with absence, with air, a perfect mold of the light gone through it. Thank you all for listening.
Beautiful, beautiful, Adele. Thank you. And I just thank you all for reading your exquisite poems. And I just want to say a couple sentences, and then if people have questions or comments, following what Adele just read, mentioning air. I know in one of the early classes, I posted a slide from Jane Hirschfield on the Poetry Foundation website. Jane Hirschfield has an article about spiritual poetry. What is it? And she talks a lot about spirit, esprit, pneuma, ruach, all words for the breath. And one of the things that, the other thing I wanted to mention, going along what Adele and many of you have talked about, that there are different paths up the mountain. I personally believe that. There's a quote from Emerson that was a guidepost for me when the magazine first started. God enters each individual through a private door. And I believe that. And I guess I have one question, because I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but the poets who've read here and who've been in the class for a while, like, what do you think? So it's pretty many of these poems were written in 10 minutes without, some of them, nobody, no revision was done. It's pretty astonishing to my mind what comes out in those 10 minutes. And I think it's partly the magic of being in a creative community, partly the magic of the poems from Rumi or Jane Hirschfield or Mary Oliver or other poets that are shared that brings us into that space where we can let something come through us onto the page. And I'm just wondering if any of the poets want to say anything about that.
This might be a little off target, but I write about angels a lot in my poem, and they're not Hallmark angels. They're very different angels. And the reason I do that is angel derives from a Greek word that means messenger. And I think we need to be aware that the messengers and messages of God can come to us anytime, anywhere, in any kind of form, and just be alert for them. Just be listening for them. And one of the things that we do in spiritual poetry is we're all gathered together and we're all alert and listening, whether we know it or not, to the angelic realm.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Yes. And Colette, you had your hand up.
Yes. Thank you, Jen. And I agree. I was just going to speak before you did, but about this sort of channeling effort. I find myself when I went back to find what poem I would read today, looking at an array of poems and sometimes being dumbfounded that I wrote that poem, thinking it's quite beautiful or full or powerful, whatever the words I might put on it, but that I'm quite surprised at what I've been able to channel. And I think it's your work, Donna, that in choosing the poems and prompts, I think it's the collective spirit of the groups, in my case, the Wednesday group, but this is not an individual effort.
Yeah. Any other? Oh, Tammy, yes, please.
I would like to say that I know that there are many people here who know me from different places and have known my poetry since I was a child and then when I was in college. And one of my beloved mentors is here, Margot. Hi, I see you from Switzerland. And Margot is an amazing poet and helped me to incorporate my poetry into my work as an expressive art therapist and always believed in that. And I was feeling quite homeless for a while with my poetry because I was no longer part of that community. And this has become my new poetry home, and our Wednesday group for me is a family. And we've all discussed this before. We share many things with each other besides poetry. And I would like to reiterate what Colette said, Donna. It is something about your holding and containing us, and nurturing us, and then we can all nurture each other. And the poems coming out in 10 minutes, I think are, because we are conduits and very aware of our words and our feelings when we're writing, and we're not writing in order to publish or in order to, we're really in it for the emotional, spiritual part of it. And so I'm less and less astonished at the incredible poems that come out in 10 minutes that are almost never edited. It's just a weekly group miracle. So thank you, Donna.
Adrian. Yeah.
This follows, I think, pretty naturally from what Tammy said. Although when I thought of this, I didn't know what Tammy was going to say, which is perhaps itself an indication of the way our group works. But as you could perhaps tell from my poem, I am a person who all my life has struggled with anger and rage and what effect that has had on my personal relationships. I've been part of the spiritual poetry workshop, I think, for 2 years now, Donna. And I would say that 2 years ago, I could not have at all said what I just said in any group. I couldn't have said it to myself. I have, as you may imagine, years of various therapies, which have all helped. And I have a relatively intense spiritual practice of contemplative prayer, which has helped more than any of the therapies. But as far as being able to hear my own emotions in words. This has been the result of these spiritual poetry workshops. First, to be able to find these wonderful poetry resources waiting for me week after week, whether I feel particularly inspired or not, to through the poems that were chosen, find poems that I hadn't read of poets whom I had read, or find poets I'd never read. And there's something about the boundaries that the 10 minutes creates that makes it a safe space within a safe space. Mm-hmm. I don't have to particularly expect anything grand and wonderful of myself because it's only 10 minutes. But on the other hand, what is right there at the very first reaction to a beautiful poem is where I have to start because I only have 10 minutes. So from my point of view, as someone who loves poetry and is a casual writer of poetry herself, the deepening pleasure and familiarity with poetry, the anticipation each week of this space, and the ability that it has given me to put words to feelings that troubled me my whole life, but that I could never bear to put words to myself. Donna, you asked us to say a few words about what the spiritual poetry group meant to us. This was more than a few words, but this is what it's meant to me. Thank you so much for creating this.
Thank you, Adrian, for being a key part of it too. And just, I'll say, like, sometimes we cry, sometimes we laugh. You know, it's a real flow between dark, light. So let me ask other people, other poets. Yes, Ruth, and then Deborah, and then Roz. I see a hand. Ruth.
Yeah, just quickly, I want to say that, the word channel comes up, and magic and miracle. For the longest time, when I was 20, I had to write a defense of an art exhibit that I'd created art. And I felt like I didn't even want to use the word I, because I felt like I was channeling, I was a medium for, and that went into my so-called defense as a senior in college. But I just wanted to applaud the courage that it takes to open that channel. And that happens every week, 3 times during our sessions on Wednesdays. And so I'm applauding everyone for being brave and opening your mind and your heart to become a channel for what comes through.
For all it is, yes.
Yeah.
Deborah.
Yes, I just want to say, Donna, we all thank you immensely. You are a great inspiration to all of us, and you've created this beautiful community out of your own desire to want to, make the world a better place. So we thank you so much. And every time I come to this spiritual workshop, I am reminded there's a sign outside of the Summit, New Jersey Visual Arts Center. And it says, or it did say in the past, creativity never gets used up. And every time I come here, I'm astounded by the creativity and the poems that just pour out of everyone. And each week, same group, same people, new poems, and there's a freshness to our new songs. So I just want to thank you all, and I'm just so grateful that I can be part of this. So thank you, Donna.
Me too. I'm grateful too. Thank you. And Roz, you had a question?
Yeah, so I have a comment. I was in the group
a few years ago for several sessions, and unfortunately, my husband's come down with a serious neurological issue for which there's nothing they can do. So I really can't do anything consistently anymore. But I do want to say, Donna, that from the classes I did take, what I've carried with me is the importance of feeding myself every single morning with spiritual poems, poems that kind of speak to me about hope and compassion, kindness, and particularly right now, resilience. And so every morning I spend some time reading poems like that, and many mornings I do write a poem. So even though I haven't been in the class, I have taken your teachings with me, and they've really helped me get through some very challenging days. And I'm sorry I had to go in and out. I have a caretaker here, but there were some problems. He needed my help. So I'm hoping I will be able to hear this. I know it was recorded, and maybe when I have some time, I can find out how to do that. Okay, thank you very much.
It's being recorded. Thank you, Roz. Yeah, I mean, writing, I consider it a spiritual practice. And Tammy, I think your dad's here too, right? Yeah, I just saw his name there.
I think my son is also here. There's a lot of people who I'm connected to here, and I feel like it's circles and circles of family, both biological and non-biological, including the poetry group. So yeah.
And can you just tell us a little bit about what you do as an art therapist, especially now in Israel?
Yeah. So I'll make it fast, but especially now I'm working on these things that are called safe open studios, which were open the day after the horrors began, which are open arts-based studios for people who had to leave their homes, who can no longer live where they were living, and we don't know when they'll be able to go back. They're living in hotels all over the country. And I volunteer in one of those. And before that, I was extremely involved for around 25 years in doing expressive arts therapies with Jews and Arabs in Jerusalem, using the expressive art therapies as my passport to get through invisible divides and use the arts, as Margot knows, as my mother tongue. And that's what my doctorate was about also. So I'm a very strong believer in poetry and all of the arts being bridges. And I don't think it's by accident that some of us chose the same poems. I mean, it's all obviously from somewhere else. I don't need to know where that place is, by the way. But the arts always speak from another place. And I feel very blessed that I've been able to be part of many different art-based communities in my life. At the moment, I will say, I heard the word hope mentioned, and I'm having a really hard time finding hope right now. But I wait for Wednesdays. It's like my sanctuary, the class. It's like, I know I have this one place where there's going to be an art-based sharing that comes from the heart, soul, and spirit. So thank you, everyone, for making that.
Thank you, and for the work you're doing now with people who've been hurt. Any other questions from anyone for the poets or? Colleen, yes.
Hesitate among all these good wishes and so forth to bring up whether you've given any further thought to the financial barriers for people like me who otherwise would have joined your groups. I participated in the poemathons for several years, and I was really sorry to see them stop. And I think you did publish one of my poems that came out of there about wandering lions in India.
Yes, send me. I know you sent me one email, and I'm opening a new Tuesday night spiritual poetry group. So we might be able to work something out with a scholarship or something. Okay. So you'll send me another email about it. That'd be good.
I mean, it sounds like, a lot of you have felt like you got wonderful results from it. And I'm sitting here trying not to be resentful that I couldn't be a part of it for so many years. But anyway,
yeah,
I'll send you an email.
Okay, good, Pauline. Thank you. And just to, I just wanted to read something that in one of the first issues of Tiferet, I wrote, it can be no accident that the word holds such significance in many world religions and spiritual practices. In the beginning was the word, proclaims John 1:1 in the New Testament. According to Kabbalah or Jewish mysticism, letters themselves have special powers. There is divine mystery behind the drawing and placement of each letter. Those who practice Siddha Yoga worship the goddess Matrika, the sacred power behind every sound and every letter. And as Nobel Peace Prize winner Shirin Ebadi points out, the first sermon in Islam begins with the word recite. And she went on to say, the Quran swears by the pen and what it writes. Such a sermon and message cannot be in conflict with awareness, knowledge, wisdom, freedom of opinion and expression, and cultural pluralism. And that is certainly, the mission of Tiferet is to help reveal spirit in all its manifestations, whether it's a walk in the woods on a rainy day, even on a rainy day, or to see to see what's not visible, to experience and recognize divinity within us. So my hope is, this is from the first issue, my hope is that Tiferet will indeed help foster cultural pluralism, help us all in our own search for and communion with divinity, and be a stable center within our modern lives, a place where the flames of creativity burn brightly. Now, since 2004, I don't think I can say that the world's gotten better about divisiveness, unfortunately. But there is hope always around the corner. And I think just the practice of writing and reading and sharing is a very beneficial, angelic force, if we will. So any other comment? Or I just, yes, Margot.
Yeah, I'm just deeply touched by all the readings and by the atmosphere. It's my first time I have the honor to be a participant and to listen to everybody's poem. And yeah, thank you so much, really.
These are very, very special poets.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
And there is a recording. Thank you, Nancy, for joining us too. And there's a recording that we will send out to all registrants.
Great. Thank you, Donna, and everyone else.
Everybody stay well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Beautiful reading. Thank you.
Thank
very
you,
much.
Donna. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Peace.
Thank you.
Peace.
Deborah. Bye.
Thank you,
Donna.
Sure. Miriam, I saw you just came in, but we're just ending. Where's Miriam?
I got the time wrong then. I'm sorry.
Oh, shoot. It's a recording. I'll send. You'll get a recording.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
You seem, yes, so nice to see your beautiful
Yeah,
face.
nice to see you too. Yeah, I can see you as well.
Yes, and we get to see each other in person next spring.
Yeah, we will see each other on May. Yeah,
Yes.
I guess.
May
Yeah.
7th, yes.
Looking forward. Yeah.
Me
Looking
too.
forward.
Me too.
Bye-bye.
All right.